Alex Pereira's first encounter with Jiří Procházka was a tense, competitive affair that saw him capture the light heavyweight title, but not without navigating significant adversity. It was a fight that showcased his legendary power, but also exposed potential vulnerabilities in his game, particularly in his defensive movement and grappling. The rematch, however, was a different story entirely. It was a short, brutally efficient performance where Pereira looked utterly dominant, making a complex and dangerous opponent appear almost ordinary. The stark contrast between the two bouts begs the question: what were the specific tactical adjustments that allowed Pereira to transform a hard-fought victory into an effortless-looking masterclass? The answer lies in a masterful blend of reinforcing proven weapons and, most critically, shoring up his biggest defensive liability with the addition of slick, proactive head movement. A clash of order and chaos. To understand the brilliance of the second performance, we must first dissect the challenges of the first. The fight was immediately framed as a classic stylistic clash. Pereira stood tall and patient in his traditional kickboxing stance, a pillar of orthodox technique. Across from him was the embodiment of chaos, Jiří Procházka. Low in his stance, constantly switching between orthodox and southpaw, with his hands held low and his movement pattern deliberately awkward, Jiří presented a puzzle designed to disrupt timing and frustrate pattern recognition. His primary weapon was his sheer unpredictability. Pereira's initial strategy was sound. He identified a clear opening in Jiří's defense, the habitually low right hand, which left that entire side of his head exposed. Early on, Pereira began to test this opening with feints, most notably a switch kick. He feinted the kick, forcing Jiří to react by backing away. He did it again moments later with the same result. While seemingly minor exchanges, these feints were Pereira planting a seed, conditioning a reaction that would pay enormous dividends in their second meeting. While Jiří's unorthodox style created openings, it also created opportunities for his own offense. In one clever sequence, he executed a sharp level change, threatening a takedown on Pereira's lead leg. This momentarily drew Pereira's hands down in defense, and in that split second, Jiří exploded upward with a clean uppercut. It was a perfect example of how his chaotic rhythm could manipulate a more traditional fighter's defensive instincts. Pereira's most reliable weapon throughout the first round was his famously debilitating calf kick. What makes Pereira's calf kick so uniquely effective is its lack of a tell. Unlike many fighters, such as Justin Gaethje, who must overtly turn their hips to generate power, Pereira delivers the kick, with his hips remaining almost completely square to his opponent. This lack of telegraphing makes the strike incredibly difficult to see coming, allowing him to land it repeatedly and with devastating effect. The impact was immediately visible. The kicks landed on the back of Jiří's bladed stance, compromising his footing and forcing him to react. Soon, he began reaching down in an attempt to catch the kicks, a clear signal to Pereira that the damage was accumulating. This reaction also created new openings as Jiří's focus was now drawn downward, leaving his head vulnerable. However, the round was not all one-way traffic. Jiří successfully closed the distance and secured a single leg takedown. On the ground, Pereira's approach was primarily defensive. He threatened a guillotine, but with only one arm controlling the head while the other punched, it was more of a stalling tactic than a legitimate submission threat. He used the position to run down the clock and prevent Jiří from mounting significant offense. His most important action on the mat was securing a left underhook from half guard. This was the key to his escape, allowing him to shrimp out, get to his side, and eventually build back up to his feet. It was a competent, if not dominant, display of defensive grappling against a determined opponent. The second round is where Pereira's key vulnerability from the first fight became most apparent. As Jiří pressed forward, landing clean shots and backing Pereira toward the fence, Pereira's head remained largely stationary and on the center line. He was so focused on finding a home for his own counter left hook, knowing Jiří's tendency to leave his chin exposed, that he absorbed several clean shots in the process. He was hurt, and for a moment, the fight seemed to be slipping away. The finishing sequence, however, was a glimpse of the fighter he would become in the rematch. After surviving the initial onslaught, Pereira made a crucial adjustment. Instead of just trading punches, he waited for Jiří to fully commit to another aggressive flurry. As Jiří lunged in, Pereira executed a subtle slip, taking his head off the line, and then unleashed his devastating counter combination of a right and left hook. By slipping first, he ensured Jiří couldn't see the counters coming. The short, compact hooks landed with thunderous power, and the fight was stopped shortly after. While the stoppage by Marc Goddard was deemed early by some, Jiří's body language, his knees buckling, and his body slumping as he absorbed elbows suggested he was no longer intelligently defending himself. Pereira had found the solution, but only after weathering a significant storm, a symphony of technical perfection. Entering the rematch, Pereira didn't abandon the tools that worked. He immediately went back to the low calf kick, establishing his primary weapon from the outset. But this time, Jiří was prepared, successfully countering one of the early kicks with a left hook that briefly backed Pereira up. It was clear that simply repeating the old game plan wouldn't be enough. This is where Pereira unveiled his single most important adjustment: proactive, intelligent head movement. Midway through the first round, the new and improved Pereira was on full display. As Jiří pressed forward, Pereira didn't just stand his ground and absorb shots. Instead, he met the aggression with a beautiful, fluid slip that took him out of the line of fire, immediately followed by a crisp counter right hook. It was the perfected version of his finishing sequence from the first fight, now deployed as a standard part of his defensive repertoire. His head was no longer a stationary target. It's often said Pereira isn't fast due to his calm, methodical style. He lacks the twitchy feints of an Israel Adesanya or the bouncy footwork of a Stephen Thompson. But this is deceptive. While his overall movement is economical, his individual actions, his kicks, his hooks, and now his head slips are lightning quick. He simply wastes no energy on superfluous motion. This newfound defensive slickness made his legendary left hook even more dangerous. He was now able to create cleaner opportunities for it, not just by waiting for a mistake, but by actively making his opponent miss. He relentlessly targeted Jiří's greatest defensive flaw, the low right hand. In one exchange, both fighters decided to throw a left hook simultaneously. It became a race to the target, and Pereira's was faster, tighter, and technically superior. He beat Jiří to the punch, landing cleanly. He also demonstrated a deeper strategic approach to setting up his power shots. He began investing in jabs to the body, a tactic he used to knock out Sean Strickland. By repeatedly showing the level change and attacking the body, he conditioned his opponent to drop their hands in defense. In the rematch, he added another layer to this attack, moving his head off the center line as he threw the body jab, ensuring he was safe from any potential counter. The culmination of these improvements came at the very end of the first round. Jiří, falling into the same trap, threw a jab. Pereira, seeing the opening created by Jiří's extended arm and dropped right hand, threw his left hook in a perfectly mirrored motion. Once again, Pereira's hook was faster and landed with devastating force, dropping Jiří to the canvas just before the bell. The fight could have ended there, but the bell provided a temporary reprieve. A fully recovered Jiří Procházka is one of the most dangerous men on the planet, so Pereira's approach to the second round was critical. He demonstrated his fight IQ by giving his opponent no time to recover. Within the first 10 seconds, he came forward aggressively, throwing a massive switch kick to the head. This finishing blow was not a random act of aggression. It was a calculated strike with roots in their very first encounter. In the first round of their first fight, Pereira had twice feinted that exact kick, forcing Jiří to retreat. He had planted that seed over a year ago. Now, with Jiří still dazed from the knockdown, Pereira capitalized. Watching the replay, it's clear that Jiří misjudged the strike. He dropped his hands low, attempting to scoop what he believed was a kick to the body. It was a fatal miscalculation. Whether this was due to the lingering effects of the knockdown or simply a mistake in the heat of the moment is impossible to know. Regardless, taking such a risk, reaching down to catch a body kick while standing directly in range of one of the most lethal head kickers in combat sports history, was a catastrophic error. The kick landed with incredible speed and precision, and the fight was over. Thanks for watching.